Like the weasel words and political tricks, Canadians are seeing the real agenda.
All these political weasel words.
Mr. Speaker, as more details are leaked about the Leader of the Opposition's proposed carbon tax and the great lengths the Liberals are using weasel words to conceal the real nature of this tax from the public, it is clear that this party is trying to trick Canadians into paying a permanent new tax. As I have stated,
Like the weasel words and political tricks, Canadians are seeing the real agenda.
But for the 28th time, incredibly, the Liberals failed to stand up and represent their constituents on important votes. Last night, only 16 Liberal MPs voted, despite the Liberal leader's empty claims that his party was against the budget.
All these political weasel words.
Like the weasel words and political tricks, Canadians are seeing the real agenda. Liberal leaders' new massive national carbon tax. The Liberals can label it with fancy names. They can try to wrap it in green packaging. But a tax is a tax.
Aboriginal representatives who will be with us in this chamber tomorrow can respond directly to the apology on the record in this House.
Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the government has received a number of suggestions and recommendations on the process for tomorrow. We have looked at all these. We've considered them in the context of our traditions and obviously precedents that have been established in similar solemn occasions. Mr. Speaker, Aboriginal Canadians have been waiting for a very, very long time to hear an apology from the Parliament of Canada, so I would urge all parties not to play politics with this, to simply get behind, Mr. Speaker, a sincere apology to be offered on behalf of all parties to the Aboriginal communities of this country.
For many Aboriginal people, the apology tomorrow will be one of the most emotional moments of their lives. But they must not be voiceless. They will listen.
Mr. Speaker, of course, there has been many consultations, many survivor groups, former students, church representatives, national and regional organizations. We've been in contact with many of them over the last good while.
Simple precedent for people other than members of Parliament to make remarks in the House of Commons.
Speaker, of course, First Nations, Aboriginal and Métis people have been waiting for a long time for this apology, Mr. Speaker, and I'm delighted that this is going to take place tomorrow.
To change his mind, because the only argument that he advanced to prevent Aboriginal leaders from speaking on the floor of the House is tradition. Mr. Speaker, once again, we have received a number of suggestions, a number of proposals from organizations and various people, and we have chosen a process that respects our precedent, and the terms of the apology have been accepted by the House of Commons, and I hope that the Liberal Party, which has not yet apologized, will also apologize tomorrow along with the government.
Be sure that the ceremony of tomorrow will be respectful, and the answer of the Prime Minister is not appropriate. Their response, because their response will be key for the future of our relationships with the Aboriginal people. Out of respect, will the Prime Minister provide the Aboriginal leaders with the text today? Order.
I spoke with Chief Fontaine about this subject last week. Mr. Speaker, the apology will be delivered tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I hope the apology will be shared by all parties of this House. I think we all have a responsibility to unite and to make this message clear. In terms of the acceptance, Mr. Speaker, there are thousands of hearts and minds that will be at different stages of acceptance, but I hope that we will begin the process of healing and reconciliation.
All these political weasel words.
the member from Halton confessed yesterday that, yes, there is a carbon tax, and yet minutes later the member from Richmond Hill said, no, there's no carbon tax here. Mr. Speaker, you got to know how bad it is when the Liberal member, the Liberal
all these political weasel words.
Environment critic, even his own brother, the Premier of Ontario, won't buy into that massive tax. Can the government?
Speaker, it's a very good question, because first we heard from the leader of the Liberal Party that he was opposed to a carbon tax. Now he's in favor of a carbon tax. Some members of his caucus say there will be no tax. Others say that there is a carbon tax. Some call it a green shift. Others call it a carbon shift. Some claim it'll be revenue neutral, like we never heard that fat one before. Mr. Speaker, Canadians won't be fooled with all these political weasel words. They know when they hear Liberals talking about new taxes, it's time to hold on to their wallets, because, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals intend to tax them more.
The honourable member.
All these political weasel words.